Hey guys, in this Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree video, I'll show you how I created my White Wolf build. This build puts players on the path of Geralt of Rivia from the book series by Andrzej Sapkowski's The Witcher. So for the character creation, I'm just using a reference image and trying to get as close to Geralt as I can to touch on a few points of focus throughout this design. Geralt has a few facial scars, most iconically the scar running down his left eye, which I've created using Tattoo Mark 4. Then he has this Greek nose, which is reminiscent of a wolf's snout, I think. Then his eyes are set quite deep into his head. He has those amber irises with the surrounding skin being quite worn and blush. For the hair and facial hair, you have a few options, I think, as Geralt isn't really locked into one look throughout the course of his appearances. I think, for the hair, options 10, 15 and 28 are all appropriate. And then for facial hair, I think you could get away with a bunch of these, really. And then for the body, he's trim, but he's also really lean, so you'll want to choose that muscular option. And then I found that the aged option really helped for me as well, just to make him look a bit more, weathered all around.
Bet you mastered the basics though, like hands up, kill them.
This is a quality build that makes use of 2 great swords and a vibrant selection of consumables, including weapon greases, throwing pots and aromatics. At its core, this is basically an alchemist build that also uses dual great swords with a selection of ashes of war to imitate the signs that Geralt has at his disposal. Out in the open world, you'll use one of your swords two-handed while having the other strapped to your back, and you'll switch between these depending on the moveset and the Ash of War that you want to use for the current situation. Then, to deal with more challenging foes or groups, you'll buff yourself and your weapons up with the appropriate consumables to increase damage and survivability. You also have the option to dual wield your great swords and focus on using jump attacks, as this technique is so strong in Elden Ring. The weapons I'm using for this build are predominantly greatswords, and I'm treating the claymore as kind of like my main sword, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it has that iconic Witcher silver sword look with the angled crossguard, where more of the other swords have a straight crossguard on them. And then secondly, it has a really nice moveset with the thrust in heavy. Then I'm using a selection of other greatswords to put my Witcher signs / Ashes of War onto. And then to go alongside the swords, I have the light crossbow as well, just for pulling enemies from groups really. For the Igni sign, I'm using Flame of the Redman. This can be looted from an invisible teardrop scarab located in front of the Fort Gale North site of Grace. Flaming Strike is also an option here, but you won't be able to use consumables on that weapon as the follow-up strike coats the blade in flame. You could also use the incantation Catchfire, but that's going to require an additional investment in faith. For the Ard sign, I'm using the Stormblade Ash of War. This is a great Ash of War that gives medium range at a low FP cost, which is reduced even further when the ability is spammed. This Ash of War can be purchased from Nightburn all at the War Master's Shack for 1800 runes. For the Quen sign, I'm using Endure. The skill raises your poise rating and allows you to tank through some hits and keep on swinging. This Ash of War is sold by Nightburn all at the War Master's Shack for 600 runes. As an extension of the sign, you can also use the Opaline Cracked Crystal tier in your Flask of Wondrous Physic, which provides a 90% damage reduction for one hit. And then there's also the Uplifting Aromatic, which will provide 90% damage reduction for one hit as well. And you can use this for as many times as you have potions, and I think you can have 10 potion bottles. For Yerden, you've got a couple of options. You could use the Ash of War Gravitas. Gravitas is looted from a lesser Alabaster Lord just in the south of Limgrave. And then Waves of Darkness can be acquired by trading the Remembrance of the Natural Born with Enya at the Round Table Hold. Unfortunately, this Ash of War can't be equipped to a greatsword, so you'll have to equip it to a colossal weapon. I find that the Zweihander is probably the most appropriate for the job. And then finally for Axii, I'm using the Assassin's Gambit Ash of War, which makes it more difficult for enemies to see and hear you to help you get the drop on folks, but as an extension of this one as well, you could also use the Bewitching Branch consumable, which will force your enemies to fight amongst one another. The only problem with the Assassin's Gambit is it can't be put onto a greatsword, so you will have to use a short sword or a straight sword to put that on, and I would recommend using the Lordsworn straight sword. It has 110 critical rating. Or you could just use a dagger and then just switch back to your weapon. Assassin's Gambit can be purchased from Knight Bernal in his second location of Volcano Manor for 6,500 runes after completing the first of the Volcano Manor contracts. So for armour for Geralt, I really like the Carrion Knight armour. The altered version of it takes the tassels off the back piece, and then I'm going to pair that with the leather gloves and the leather boots. Another great set for Geralt is the Prisoner's clothing with the leather gloves and the Prisoner's trousers. And then I really like the Confessor's armour with the Bandit mask, the Preceptor's gloves and the leather boots, as like a travel outfit, like an overcloak type thing. So the talismans that I'm using for this build are the two-handed sword talisman. This talisman will give us extra damage when two-handing a weapon. Then I've got the Shard of Alexander, which will greatly boost the attack power of skills. So this is going to affect Stormblade, Flame of the Redmane and Gravitas. Then I'm using the green turtle talisman to increase stamina recovery. The two-headed turtle talisman would be better here, but I don't have that one, so I'm just using this one instead. And then I've got the Dragon Crest Great Shield talisman just for some physical protection. You could swap this out with whatever kind of protection you need. So be sure to carry around the Spell Drake, Fire Drake, Bolt Drake and Pearl Drake talismans just in case you need those types of protection instead. And then a couple of other talismans that might come in handy from time to time is the Claw talisman to enhance the dual greatsword jump attacks, and the Companion Jar, which will raise the potency of your throwing pots. For the attributes, I have 40 Vigor. You could do with some more of this really, probably take that up to 60. I have 35 Mind. You wouldn't really need 35 Mind, it's just a comfort number for me. It gives you 200 focus points exactly. Endurance again, I've gone a bit high with this. I was trying to get a light roll on the dual greatswords, but it didn't work out. Then strength and dexterity, I have 45 each. You could do with pushing those a bit further as well. I have an intelligence of 9, a faith of 8 and an arcane of 14, but these aren't important. These are just as low as I can get them due to the starting class. There are 10 weapon greases available in the base game, excluding the shield grease, and those are Fire Grease, which can be acquired from Armourer's Cookbook 1. Magic Grease can be acquired from the Glintstone Craftsman's Cookbook 5. Lightning Grease can be acquired from the Ancient Dragon Apostle Cookbook 1. Holy Grease can be acquired from the Missionaries Cookbook 4. Poison Grease can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 8. Rock Grease can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 22. Blood Grease can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 6. Freezing Grease can be acquired from the Glintstone Craftsman's Cookbook 2. Sporific Grease can be acquired from the Fervor's Cookbook 2. Dragon Wound Grease can be acquired from the Ancient Dragon Apostles Cookbook 3. And then for potions, we have the Flask of Crimson Tears, the Flask of Cerulean Tears, and the Flask of Wondrous Physic, which I'm sure you're all using anyway. But then a few great additions to those would be the Iron Jar Aromatic. The Iron Jar Aromatic prevents you from getting staggered and knocked down at the cost of movement speed. You can get this one from the Perfumer's Cookbook 3, which is found in the Oriza side tomb. And then the Blood Boil Aromatic is a damage increase, and you can get this from the Perfumer's Cookbook 2 in Altus Plateau at the Shaded Castle. And finally, for the Uplifting Aromatic, you can get this from the Perfumer's Cookbook 1, which can be found in the Perfumer's Ruins. So this is a graphic showing where you can get the cracked pots that you'll need to make the some of the throwballs, the bombs. And then I'll quickly run over the locations of some of the bombs that you can get using the crack pots. I'll leave the ritual pot variants to your discovery. The fire pot can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 7. The oil pot can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 17. The magic pot can be acquired from the Glintstone Craftsman's Cookbook 4. The lightning pot can be acquired from the Ancient Dragon Apostles Cookbook 2. The holy water pot can be acquired from the Missionaries Cookbook 1. The poison pot can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 14. The fetid pot can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 4. The swarm pot can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 24. The sleep pot can be acquired from the Fervor's Cookbook 1. The rancor pot can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 9. And finally, the volcano pot can be acquired from the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 20. Alright guys, that's all I have to share for my Geralt of Rivia roleplay build. If you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like it, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Peace.